You can make New Vegas look really good by following something like Salamander's visual overhaul and using New Vegas Reloaded on top of that. But it's nothing new to try to remake or remaster Fallout New Vegas, so why not do the opposite? We're not just going to be looking at visuals, but also some mods that will add in some aspects from the classic games, because well, they kind of fit in with the art style here. For context of how this looks, here's Miku dancing. For starters, you're going to want to pick up Scout's 128 texture pack. This mod is pretty self-explanatory. It resizes every single texture in the game to be 128 by 128 instead of its original texture size. This actually looks pretty cool in my opinion. It's still recognizable as New Vegas if you're far enough away from the screen, but it creates a graphical style similar to that of Ultrakill. The low resolution textures really go a long way in making the game look that much older. And you'll also probably see a sizable performance increase from these drastically reduced texture sizes. But we can go even further. If you want to disable anti-aliasing in your New Vegas launcher, you get those gorgeous jagged edges around meshes that move whenever you do. Now, a lot of older games are really hindered by the technology at the time. Let's take Silent Hill for example. Yeah, its fog effect is really atmospheric, but it's also a convenient way to hide the game's low draw distance. Thankfully, we can bring this into New Vegas with Dusty Distance Redone. This mod increases the amount of fog in the game, and installing it we can get to pick between a lot of options for fog distance. For this, we're gonna want to go for the creepy option to get that Silent Hill feel. And if you selected the full version of the mod in the installer, you can go to the INI and change things like fog color and all of that sort of stuff. The options are pretty self-explanatory, so you shouldn't have any issues in finding out which ones do what. So if you want to tweak your fog even more, well, you can do that. Now this aesthetic goes really well for a horror-filled route. So this Corrosion is the weather mod you're gonna want to use. It brings the solitary atmosphere of the Madre into the wasteland. It's not just red though, there are a few blue skies you can see, but even those aren't free from the cloud's influence. Now despite this making the Mojave very red, the cloud isn't actually introduced here, so you don't need to worry about that. This mod does have an optional ambience plugin that introduces some of the horrifying sound effects from the Madre and the pit, which amp up in intensity as you get closer to the strip. You can use this weather mod by itself or combine it with Dusty Distance for a Sierra Madre like nice red cloud effect in the Mojave, which looks pretty good in my opinion. But if you don't want your screen to be flooded red, Desert Natural Sandstorms is another option. It adds in sandstorms to the game, so you can use that as an alternative if you want. They won't be as frequent as the red cloud, but they are a pretty nice atmospheric change when they do appear. Now for the real mod, the April Fool's mod that gave me the idea for this whole video, Wall's New Vegas Unloaded. So what does New Vegas Unloaded do? Well, it removes texture filtering from the game, the thing that makes textures look, well, good. The easiest way to think of it is as anti-aliasing but for textures. Another thing this mod does is skip the MIP maps. Okay, so New Vegas uses DDS textures. These have a thing called MIP maps, which are basically a lower quality version of the texture. These are usually used by things that are further away to save on performance and that sort of stuff. This mod skips them at runtime, so even if you're using custom textures from modded items that aren't covered in the 128 texture pack, they'll still look lower quality. Unloaded also comes with a handy INI we can use to change things such as the color depth or improve the quality of skin and view model textures. Its most impactful setting though is the one that reduces the resolution. It'll divide your screen resolution by whatever number you put in, or if you don't want to decrease your resolution at all, then set it to 1, but like, come on, that's sort of the whole point of this mod. But hopefully once Johnny Guitar gets updated, we can also play around with these fixed camera angles Wall showed off in this video here, to truly turn New Vegas into a PS2 survival horror title. Overall, with this selection of mods, you can make your New Vegas look like it released a whole or maybe 2 whole console generations early. It creates a significantly different yet still appealing visual style for the game. A style which feels incredibly good to be combined with some aspects of Fallout 1 and 2. For HUD, you could either go with Anro's M.U.X Classic or Revelations preset, and combine it with Revelation Lite, a lightweight version of the Revelation UI mod, compatible and updated for newer versions of Vanilla UI+. So you can get the full Revelation style user interface, without needing to go through all the headache and crashes that's trying to get the old mod to work. And literally any classic mod feels at home in this list. From things like classic Fallout Weapons Remastered, which integrates all of the weapons from the classics into the Mojave, all of which you can find in the level list, adding some more variety to both your own and your enemies' arsenals. Other classic stuff like Adobe buildings, or literally any of Webb's mods. Things like the classic creature retexture or Webb's classic sentry bot both work really well here, but easily the best is gonna be the Tactics Midwest Deathclaw replacer, because encountering one of these things sprint at you through the fog is genuinely one of the most terrifying experiences I've had in New Vegas. But we're not gonna stop there, because older games weren't as easy as something like New Vegas. Obviously, you could go for Dust to complete that survival horror experience. But if you don't want to use Dust, I'd recommend something like Transcendence. It's a complete overhaul of New Vegas, covering essentially every aspect of the game. Virtually nothing's untouched. It rebalances specials, perks, limits fast traveling so it can only be done if there's a caravan at the settlement, and so much more. I've done a full dedicated video to Transcendence, so I'm not going to be getting into it all here. But the only real reason not to use it is because of how comprehensive it is. It does have quite a few incompatibilities, but there are patches for stuff like alternate start with delayed main quest, living desert, and functional post-game ending. But as of recording, it is not compatible with Tale of Two Wastelands. So if you want something more TTW tailored, check out some of Sweet 6 Shooters mods. Edge and its recommended mods in particular. Edge is a massive overhaul, not as big as Transcendence, but still pretty sizable for both the Capital Wasteland and Mojave. Now, I'm gonna be real, there's way too much stuff this mod changes for me to cover it in something that's not a dedicated video. But it'll make the Wasteland a much deadlier place, increasing penalties for your hardcore needs, rebalancing the game in DLCs, and making boss enemies, well, actually challenging. Sweet's mods are always incredibly fun to use and balance, so definitely check this one out if you're craving for your New Vegas to be a little more difficult while still being fair. But yeah, if there's any mods you think I've missed, be sure to let me know. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, maybe consider liking and subscribing. But I hope to see you all next time.